All right, so it's already 5 minutes. I think we should start.
Sounds good.
Okay. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation again. So just to introduce our community, we are called Google Women Techmakers Ethiopia community. So mainly we invite senior guests and junior guests to share their experience, the challenges they face, so that the junior women intake can learn from them and be able to strengthen their technical skill and technical and soft skill.
Mhm.
So thank you so much everyone for joining us. So back to you, Hannah. How did you grow up? Tell us about yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here and to be speaking to you as well. Yeah, a bit about myself. I'm Hannah, as you know, and I'm half German, half Ethiopian, so also have a share here. And yeah, I mean, I'm currently doing my PhD in AI and language models, so I'm focusing on LLMs like ChatGPT. But I had a completely different background. So I started out with AI and robotics in my undergrad because I think I just watched one too many science fiction movies. And yeah, I just loved robots. I went into my undergrad. I did a lot of things. I worked with the German Aerospace Center as well for about 1.5 years. Um, there I was working on a robot that was supposed to go to Mars and then, for example, clean solar panels and yeah, just do manual tasks on Mars. And I was responsible for creating an algorithm that can teach the robot how whether there was a collision or not. For example, if a rock is thrown at the robot. And then after doing that for a while, I realized, okay, robotics is cool, but also there's so much out there in AI and NLP, and there was so much yet to discover. So I did my master's in London in the UK, and I thought, okay, I've done robotics, so I want to go into languages, language processing. And yeah, so I started my master's in AI and NLP, and halfway through my master's, ChatGPT came out. And to me, obviously, that was perfect timing because suddenly everyone was talking about AI, and everyone before had the image of me working on the Terminator, and now suddenly I'm just working on a silly chatbot like ChatGPT. But yeah, this made everyone talk about AI because suddenly it's something that everyone is using every single day, basically. And I realized, okay, this is a space where I want to stay in. And I went to so many conferences. I talked to so many people within AI, and you would just see everyone standing on stage and they had no idea what was going on. They didn't know anything because, I mean, OpenAI didn't really tell us anything at that time. So you would just see one screenshot after the next, showing you what works in ChatGPT and what doesn't work in ChatGPT. And I realized, okay, this is very interesting. No one has any idea whatsoever. So that was a space I wanted to be in. But in the 4 years of studying AI, no one ever talked about humans. No one ever mentioned the impact AI has on humans. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let me take a break for a year. Let me go and do something in the humanities space because obviously there were so many problems when it comes to AI, but the people that were able to work around these problems, they weren't actually interested in the same problems that I was interested in. For example, looking into marginalized communities. And so I joined the Ada Lovelace Institute, which is a research institute in London that focuses on the impact AI has on different groups in society. And I realized, wow, I had no idea at the beginning. Humanities is not something that I was familiar with. And I realized that there was so much that I had yet to learn about it. So I learned that I talked to so many people. I did interviews with people from different groups. I looked into, okay, so if you use AI in your everyday life, how do you see different problems? Because, right now we have a very Western focused lens. All the things that we hear about are mainly from Europe and the US. But what about the rest of the world? What about Asia? What about Africa? What about, South America? And there are so many people. We have over 8 billion people on this planet who could all be using AI. And we're just listening to what, 1 billion people? That's not enough. So I don't know if you've tried it, if you tried ChatGPT in Amharic, but when ChatGPT came out, it was not great, and it still isn't great. And I grew up in Germany mainly, but my mother is an artist, so she's Habesha as well. And we used to go back and forth between Ethiopia and Germany doing loads of projects. So, I picked up the language along, and when I tried ChatGPT in Amharic, it just didn't work out at all. And then I realized, wait, so if this doesn't work for Amharic, then how is it for other, for example, African languages? I'm sure we're not alone here. So I tried, to talk to different people and looking into different African languages as well. And that's when I realized, wait, there is a problem. ChatGPT, or in general, those large language models, they don't work for most of, African languages, Asian languages. And then I thought, okay, this is something that I can focus on, because this is something that impacts me, that impacts my family. It is something that impacts the majority of the world, really. And it is something that, if I'm not going to work on it, if we're not going to work on this together as a community, then no one is going to solve this problem for us. They're big tech is not really interested in this. And the people that have the power, they don't see a benefit off of this. So we have to work on this ourselves. And that's when I started getting into, research in low resource languages, talking to people from different backgrounds, realizing that this is definitely not a problem that is just in Amharic. It is also in so many other languages. And then I applied at Cambridge, at the university here. And basically, my proposal was, I want to make this better. I want to make or create AI that works for everyone in the world, and not just for a select few in Europe and the US. So here I am now. I just started my PhD at Cambridge, and it's going well, but there's a lot going on. And obviously, with DeepSeek coming around, for example, it's just AI news never really stop, and it is already hard to keep up with everything and seeing how quickly things evolve. But then you realize that it's evolving really well in English. But what about all the other languages? We have 7,000 languages. Why are we only focusing on the first 10 languages? And there are so many examples where, for example, Basque country, it's a very small region in Europe. They have about 500,000 speakers, and they have 6 times more Wikipedia articles than Swahili, which is spoken by over 150 million people in several African countries. And how's that even possible, So I think what we have to work on is getting more resources, getting more people into AI, especially from people from areas that are not currently represented. So I just want to focus on that specifically, and talking to communities to create AI models that are, created by the communities for the communities. So we are not just reliant on big tech companies to do it for us. Because, I'm sure you know more about Ethiopia's economy right now, or Ethiopia's AI landscape, than someone from, I don't know, Silicon Valley, who has never even been to Ethiopia before. So my plan is to really go into the communities, mainly in Africa, and go and see what is actually that they need. Can we do something? Where do we have to start? What are the resources? And also, how can we create AI that actually works in Ethiopia and other African countries? So that is my story. That's it.
That's really great and inspirational journey, really. So let me take you back to your programming journey. How did you start programming, and did you grow up here?
So I grew up in Germany,
Okay.
but So I started programming when I was about 12, 13 years old. So we had to choose like different subjects in school. And back then, computer science wasn't really a subject in school, it was an extracurricular. And I could choose either like Latin, Japanese, drama, or computer science. So I went for computer science because to me that sounded like the most interesting choice. And I walked into the room and there were just, 20 other boys sitting there. My school was also just all white Germans. So, someone like me stood out anyway. And then I walked into the room and I realized, wow, okay, they do not want me here. But also, computer science was so interesting to me that I didn't want that to stop me from pursuing this. So I kept on staying there. I kept on learning so many programming languages. I think at the end, when I finished school, I had about 10, 12 programming languages that I went through. Obviously, at this point, I don't use any of them anymore because if you know Python or Java or JavaScript, whatever, you're basically like, you're already good. But I went into like Prolog or Assembler and yeah. Um, but the programming to me was, like learning another language and understanding how the computer works, how we can basically create these kinds of recipes for computers to go through. And then when I was 15, there was a scholarship program in Berlin, in Germany, where you could visit universities as a student from school and listen into their lectures and do, the homework and the exams. So I got into that scholarship program, and then from like 15 to 19, I also went to university there until I finished my actual school in Germany. And then I realized, okay, I have all the basics in computer science now, and I want to focus more on AI. And that's why I went into AI and robotics straight away with my bachelor's. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, how does it feel? What would the feeling when you decide, okay, now I'm gonna do robotics or AI? How
Yeah.
does it feel? Most of us we struggle to choose our niche.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanna hear your experience on that.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question because I was so afraid to commit to one topic specifically, especially, when was it? In 2018, 2019, when I finished school. No one was talking about AI back then. That was just, it was a very new thing, and it was a very small group of people that was interested in AI. It was almost a very, nerdy thing to be interested in. And everyone I told that I was going to do AI, they were just like, Hannah, you're crazy. Like, what is this even? You're just going to build the Terminator. And but I knew the potential of this, that AI is still undiscovered. It is, to me, the way we're going to live in the future. But if it's only a small group of people that will shape this future, it is not going to be a future that I might agree with. And if there are not people like me that can shape this future together with me and, make it a bit more diverse than it was back in 2019, then we would just be looking at, wow, almost like a dystopia. And I didn't want that to be the reality that we would have to face later on. So I realized that if I want this to make if I want to be represented in the data sets, if I, or like people like me, can have a voice within that space, then we have to go and do it ourselves. So to me, there was really no other option. I needed to be in AI because I knew it was very early on and there was still space for me to, you know, to influence it in a way where it would respect me as a person as well. And that's why I went into AI. And robotics was just a little add-on because I really loved robots. And it's, if you have the ability to create something from scratch and tell it basically what to do, and with that you can help so many people. If you go into the health sector, there are so many applications where you can use AI and robotics together. And to me, that was just one way I can do something. And then later on, again, I had to choose a new niche with natural language processing because I realized, oh, there's yet another thing I want to do. And then after doing that for a year, I realized, oh, but what about humans? I should probably also think about humans. So I went into this again. And at this point, I'm like, whatever problem I'm looking at, I just look at it with like one brain third is looking at it from a robotics perspective, one is looking at it from an NLP perspective, and one is looking at it from a humanities perspective. So at this point, if I can give one advice, it would be to, look at it from various perspectives and not just be stuck in one niche, because I think at some point you will need various perspectives and you'll need to look at all the problems that you're solving. It's not like, I think what we see from big tech is that they rely too much on the developers. And if you then look at every problem from a developer's perspective, then you might not even think about what could go wrong to certain people because you never learned how to look at it from a different perspective. So I would recommend to, if you're interested in several things, actually go into those several things, learn about them, and then put this together and use this to look at AI from various perspectives. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so inspiring. So, my next question will be, how did you get the chance to work on robotics? Tell, tell us about that, because that's a new field for us. I
Yeah.
think most of us, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So I, how do I explain this? So in my studies, we did have like specific courses where we would look at how do you even design a robot yourself? How do you print the robot from a 3D printer? How do you build together? Then there are courses that we're looking at, for example, Arduino, those like those little motherboards where you can basically program and connect that to a robot, for example. And there are Lego Mindstorm robots. So when I was younger, I was already interested in that as well. But I have a younger brother. He would get all the Lego Mindstorm presents, and I would be stuck with like Barbie dolls. And that in itself was already telling that we still live in a society where we don't expect women to be interested in something like robotics or programming. But yeah, later on I realized I'm not going to just go down a path because everyone expects me to do that. I want to go down a path that interests me. So I went into robotics, and the German Aerospace Center, they have internships. So I think they also have internships for international students, if any of you are interested. I can definitely recommend it. So there's different they have different cohorts all over Germany. And I'm sure there are other places in Europe as well that would welcome African students, for example, as well. Yeah, I can definitely find the link somewhere, but I'll write it down. And I think the main thing about this is that I was very much interested in the connection between AI and robotics, because there's one way you can look at robotics and it's very important to make the robot even work. But to me, it was also about making the robot learn by itself, because there are so many applications where we can use that as well. So I got an internship at the German Aerospace Center. I worked there for 6 months, and then my supervisor offered me to extend the internship to write my bachelor's thesis together with the German Aerospace Center. And to me, that was an incredible opportunity, because that was a dream come true. When I was a child, I wanted to be an astronaut, and then being able to connect AI and robotics together and space, that to me was just mind-blowing. So yeah, when I got that chance, obviously I said yes, and I worked there for about 1.5 years in total. And to this day, I'm still interested in robotics, and I still wish I could build a new robot every single day. And if you're interested in this, if anyone is interested here, I would definitely recommend it. There are so many tutorials online as well, where you can basically teach yourself how to build these robots there are maker spaces in most universities where you can access some of their machines. And I think it's just about, trying to invent something yourself, trying to build something yourself. So I'm going to write down the institute's name, German Space Center. And yeah, if you look at that site, then there might be open positions for internships. And my supervisor, he's one of the heads now in one of the departments in robotics as well. Right. So maybe he has a few open positions where you can look into.
Yeah, thank you so much for providing the information. Really appreciate it. So my next question. So your journey is like you initially you were interested in robotics and then you shift to NLP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that journey? How did you shift to NLP? And tell us about NLP. You know, we hear about this word NLP, LLM. We hear about this word is all over the place. So
Yeah.
can you clarify to us?
Yeah, definitely. So NLP is short for natural language processing, and that just basically means just looking at using AI to process text and using, for example, large language models, LLMs, to generate text. So in this case, there are so many different applications. For example, machine translation, which is also translating, let's say, a text from Amharic to English, that is already using NLP because it is taking in the text and translating it into the other languages. And in order to do that, you need a lot of data from those languages. And at the moment, about 50% of the internet's content is in English only. And we have 7,000 languages, which means that the other 7,000 have to be distributed over the other 50% of the internet, which means that we don't have enough data in all the other languages. So in order to even use NLP, in order to even process all of this text, we first need the text data from the internet. So there are loads of initiatives where we can create more data sets, and then we have to annotate them. And then once we have that, we can train more AI models in order to process this text so that the translation from Amharic to English is getting better and better and better. So that is one of the things that I'm aiming for as well, because we just need more data. There are other different applications, for example, sentiment analysis, where you go through a text and you have a model that can check whether this text is, for example, positive, is it negative, is the person that wrote this happy, are they sad, and yeah, that is also using NLP. And there are so many different things. So basically, if you think about it, AI and anything related to text or language is NLP. And to me, that was a completely new area when I started out, because, I had my robotics background. I was interested in AI, but it was all focused on, for example, images through cameras, or something related to the movement of a robot, but it was never related to any text. And then when I started my master's, I could choose between either image processing and AI, which would then be related to robotics again, or I could go into languages. And I thought, okay, I already did 3 years of robotics. I don't need to do it all over again. So I started with the languages, and it was a completely new topic to me. I had never even heard of this before. And then halfway through, ChatGPT came out, and now, as you mentioned, everyone is talking about NLP, but what is it actually, and what can we do with it? So to me, any chatbot is already using NLP. So really, anything that you interact with nowadays is somewhat related to NLP, and that's why it's such a huge field now, and that's why it's so important to get more people into this that come from a non-English speaking background, because if we're creating all these amazing applications, but if they don't work in other languages, then we're basically just excluding a lot of people, because they are not able to use all of these technologies. Why do we have to to force everyone to learn English in order to even get access to using these technologies. So that's why I'm interested in basically turning NLP into a problem for the entire world and not just for Europe and the US. But
Yeah, thank you so much. So my next question will be, so most of the time when you work on AI, the biggest and the hardest part, I believe, is collecting data, right?
yeah,
Yes. So I have also worked on OCR projects back in campus. So how did you collect data? Now that you have told me that you are working on different languages, so how
yeah,
are you planning to collect these data? And there are
yeah,
things like classification and like that, right?
yeah,
Yes, tell us about
exactly.
that.
Yeah, so that is a very good question because that is something that I think about every day right now, starting my PhD. Because either, you get people who write text and you pay them to write the text, and then you use that text in your language models. But the thing is, you need so much more data. You would basically need everyone's text every single day in order to make up for the amount that is still not covered when you compare it to English. So what I'm thinking of is how can we automate that process of data collection, but also make it ethical? Because right now, if you look at most of the big tech companies, there have been so many articles where basically it came out that most of these tech companies are exploiting people from different backgrounds to get that data, but actually not paying them to do all of that work, because it is manual labor, writing all this text, annotating this text, that should be compensated. And these big tech companies, they have money, so why aren't they doing this? But I'm more interested in how can we actually include the communities in this process, because I cannot just walk into a country that I'm not from and say, oh, I don't speak the language, but I have all the solutions for you and you should just trust me. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. So I want to go talk to the people from those languages, mainly low resource languages, and see, okay, what is it actually that they need? What is it that I can do to help? But also, how can we get a lot of data and treat it ethically as well? So I'm still working on this. There are different ways, maybe I want to look at data that is also used by the average person. Depending on where you go, there are different levels in the educational system. You have a lot of people in some countries that are illiterate because some languages spoken oral, they're oral languages, which means they're mainly spoken and not written. Or you just have so many different dialects that it makes a difference again. So I'm looking into working together with the people that speak those languages and finding a way we can automate that process so that we can get a lot of data, but then also let them keep the data as well, because it is not my right to just claim that data as my own. But yeah, I'm still working on it. It's not that easy. And yeah, you just need a lot of people, really, because you can't just generate this text that would not create the data that we want. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it's really tough.
Yeah.
Yes. So my next question will be, tell us your journey in DeepMind. In DeepMind,
Mm-hmm.
you are a scholar in DeepMind, right?
Yes.
So we want to hear their work environment and how was your journey on that.
Yeah. So I was a DeepMind scholar during my master's degree. That meant that DeepMind was basically, paying for my degree, but also giving me the opportunity to have a mentor that I'm still in touch with to now, until now. And I was also able to go into their office and see how people are working and the working environment, as you mentioned. And to me, DeepMind was always my dream company in a sense, because, when you start out in AI and you see, okay, there's so much research happening, but usually if you stay in academia, so if you stay at the university, you don't really get paid a lot, but also you always have to fight for the next fund, for the next grant to do your research. And right now I'm enjoying that because I get to do, like, I'm basically getting paid to work on a project that interests me for the next 3 to 4 years, which is a freedom that I would have never even imagined I could have. But I know that after my PhD, and even if I want to continue within research, you're basically just fighting a lot because you have to align with the university's goals, you have to align with the department's goals. And then the alternative of staying in academia would be to go to one of those big tech companies like, I don't know, Google, Amazon, whatever, basically all of them. But I realized that even going there, obviously it would be a huge opportunity, but in the end, the position that I would get would be, I would just be another, person doing all the tasks that they want me to do. I would not be able to do the things that I'm interested in because I would be so replaceable that they could kick me out tomorrow and they will find someone else. I wouldn't be special in a sense. So to me, DeepMind was the perfect combination of academia and big tech, because suddenly you are still a researcher, so you're still doing research, but also you're somewhat connected to big tech, so there would be more money to actually do the projects that you're interested in. And so to me, it was an insane opportunity to just go in there, talk to the people that work there, see how they're working, what they're doing, what they're interested in as well. And I realized that it's really just about, having these kinds of conversations, talking to these people and realizing, wow, there's definitely something that I can do as well. And that depends on how much I want this. And, knowing the right people, getting into the right circles so that you can then use those resources to work on the projects that you're interested in. And so for a year, I basically was somewhat guided by DeepMind to work on some of the problems that I was interested in, to have my mentor there who was introducing me to other people. And my main question back then was whether it was worth it to do a PhD or not, because I thought a lot about it and I realized that there are loads of different opinions and not everyone is telling you to do a PhD. And to this day, like, I'm happy that I decided to go for a PhD, but there are also people that wouldn't have liked it. So it's very, like, depends on what you want, really. But back then it was an amazing opportunity to talk to different people that had different backgrounds. So not everyone had AI, because AI was such a new topic. Imagine you're talking to someone who's 40 years old. When they went to uni, AI wasn't even talked about. So they did come from different backgrounds, like physics, for example, or computer science, mathematics. Some even had a humanities background and then went back to uni to study AI and then work on this. So I realized that there is no straight line to the place that you want to get to. And it's just a matter of, focusing on what you're interested in and how you can get there.
Okay, great. So, how many years has it been since you have been working on this career on AI generally?
That's a good question. So, I mean, officially with computer science, I reckon it has been 11 years now, which is
Wow.
way too long.
Wow.
I'm 24, so I wouldn't count my 13-year-old as actually working in AI. But my interest has always been there, and being able to work at different universities and go listen to their courses. I was addicted to learning when I was young, because I would not stop. If there was a lecture on anything in computer science, I would go. I would listen to so many online lectures. I did not have a free minute where I didn't do anything in computer science. And I think that's what drove me into this as well. So now, obviously, with everyone talking about AI, you have to kind of keep up. You have to know, okay, what happened yesterday? What is the new thing? And how is it changing everything that we know about right now? Because I need to know if maybe something that I'm working on right now has been solved yesterday by someone else. And yeah, so it's this constant way of learning. And I think my obsession basically with AI started um, when I was about 16, 17, because I went to a lecture where someone was talking about AI, and I realized, wow, okay, so this is this whole new thing where we are teaching a machine what to do so the machine can teach itself what to do. And to me that was just so mind-blowing, because I'd only like read so many science fiction books, I've watched so many science fiction movies, and to me that was just not real. I did not expect this to be real at all. So I did a lot of research on this as well, and yeah, by the time I finished school I knew I had to go into AI. And then I guess if you want to count the years, 2019, so we have 2025 now, so yeah, 6 years.
Wow, that's really quite journey.
Yeah.
Impressive.
uh,
So,
thank
as
you.
a woman in AI, I mean, there is a scarcity of women in the field, right?
Yeah.
So, what challenges have you encountered, and how did you try to,
Yeah.
solve those challenges? I'm sure there are a lot of
Oh my god, yes.
challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So as I mentioned, when I was 13, I walked into the room, it was just boys, and there's a German saying that goes, women and technology don't work together. That is an actual German saying. So when I went to school, that was something that I would hear basically every day, because they could not believe that I would still continue to go to that class, even though there was no other girl. And I would talk to other girls, and they were just like, oh, yeah, but I don't want to be the only girl. And which is fair enough. You know, it's not a great environment to be in. But I knew that this cannot stop me from learning about the things that I'm interested in. Yeah, so I continued anyway, and it wasn't always easy, because there are loads of comments, there are loads of people that think that you don't know what you're doing. I will never forget, I went to uni, and I was working on my robot. I was basically on my way to the drilling machine to drill a hole into the robot so I could put it together. And on my way there, my professor came up to me, took the parts of the robot out of my hand, and said, oh, you know what? Let me do that for you so you don't hurt yourself.
No.
So I was so angry, because at that point I realized, wow, my professor went out of his way to come to me to take all the parts out of my hand, because he thought I couldn't do it on my own, and he didn't do that to anyone else. And he wasn't even asking if I could do this myself. He wasn't even saying, oh, you know what, if you don't know this, I can teach you so you know next time. He was just doing it for me. And I realized, okay, there's definitely a problem. So I joined a few initiatives. So, for example, the fact that you have your own group with the Google Tech Makers, that is so important, because you know you're not the only one. There are so many other people like you, especially amazing women out there that are just doing so much in AI, and you just need to find them and work together with them. So there are loads of opportunities like that. So there's Women in AI, there's Black Women in AI, then there's Google Tech Makers. There's I joined another group which is called, yeah, okay, Angels here as well. So woo, it's there are all these amazing opportunities to join initiatives where people come together that are facing the same struggles, the same challenges, and it's just incredible, because you realize, wow, I'm not alone anymore. And the scene where you think you're the only woman is changing, because look at us, look at this call right now. We are all, like, depending on what you identify with, but it's all it's so much more than what we get to see in, for example, movies or the news. Like, obviously, if you look at the US right now and all the big people that are in tech right now, of course, they are all white men and have a lot of money and a lot of power. But that doesn't mean that there are not other people like us that can do the same thing as well. So I think what really helped me to go through all of my entire journey really was to connect with other people like me. So may that be people of color, other women, just in general, people that are interested in the same things as me and that want to make a difference. And yeah, it's just important to know that you're not alone. And then you'll be fine. You'll be fine, because there'll always be someone that will help you through this. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, it's so difficult, to work on in an environment where it is main dominated, So last time we invited one guest, and there's one impressive word she said. If
Yeah.
you are working, she said, if you are working on a main dominated area, you have to prove yourself 2 times as them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I have to work,
once, yes,
yeah, to work twice as hard for, half the recognition that everyone else
yes,
is.
and once you prove yourself, then those
Mhm.
things will go away, and they will start trusting you. So keep being our inspiration. We are proud of you.
Thank you. But you as well, honestly. And yeah, she was right when she said it, but also it is something that will always still be in your mind, because that is something that, you've been seeing for so long. And I think right now, sometimes I still see myself doubting, and thinking, oh, am I even good enough? Do I even deserve to be here? And then, for example, when I walked into my PhD lab on the first day, it was just men. And I thought, okay, this is Cambridge, right? And we are working on large language models. Everyone in my lab is working on large language models. We are 30 people. How is it that I'm yet again the only woman, and then also the only one with an African background? How is that even happening? So I went straight to my supervisor and said, look, I'm glad that I'm here. Like, I'm grateful, but also I'm not going to be your poster person, to walk around with and say, oh yeah, no, we have a woman and we have someone of color here. You have to actively work on getting more people in there. And then they always say, oh, but they don't really exist, or we don't know where to find them. And I'm just like, they exist. There are so many initiatives out there that show that there are so many people out there working on AI that want to actually change something. And it's about, becoming visible. You have to show the world, okay, here I am, I'm working on this, I want to change this, but also showing people that what they think doesn't really matter. You're just going to work on what you're interested in, because as you mentioned, you can work so hard and you'll get half the recognition, and it will make you so angry sometimes, but you just have to keep pushing, because if that's something that you believe in, that you think is worth working on, then just go for it. And people will always doubt you. People
Yes.
will always talk, but you can't change that fact. So you just have to change your own attitude and say, okay, you know what? I don't actually care. I don't care what you think of me. I'm just gonna do whatever I'm here to do. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, it's so inspirational. So back to AI. So my next question will be: I'm sure you have worked on different researches within this 13 years. So tell us about your researches. How did you do it?
Yeah.
And like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, as you probably know by now, I have been working in very different areas within AI. And I think for me, it was always important to know that what I'm doing is actually interesting to myself as well. Like, I don't want to just sit there thinking, oh, someone told me to do this, but actually I'm not interested in this. So I always made sure that the things that I spend my, precious time on, as should everyone, I think, that the thing that I'm interested in, that's what I want to look at. So, for example, going into the uh, internship at the German Aerospace Center, that was just something I would have never even imagined. So when I arrived there, they wanted to give me a project about like I don't know, something to do, and I just said, no, I'm here to do something that is related to AI and robotics. If you just want me to do some normal task in robotics, then I'm sorry, like this is not what I'm interested in. So yeah, that was when I said I wanted to do AI. That became the first project that institute ever did in AI, which to me was just mind blowing, because everyone should have been doing AI, I think. So at that point, people were realizing, okay, we're a bit late. I guess Hannah can now do this. So it was really great to have the opportunity to work together with the institute, because that's when you realize they have all the resources, they can get the data, like they have the money for the robot, they have the money for all the GPUs and everything that you need in order to process that data. If I just sat at home doing all of this on my own, I would never get this access. So if you're interested in, for example, working within a research team, then you should reach out to various research teams in the world and say, okay, I want to work with your robot, for example, or I want to work with your data. Do you have any opportunities, like an internship or something? Because you're not going to get this data otherwise. Then when I worked with DeepMind and in general, when I did my master's degree, I looked into positive and negative news. So we had COVID before, I did half of my bachelor's during COVID, and I realized that there was just a lot of negative news. And at some point, I couldn't take it anymore, and everything was just bad. I open my phone, and the first thing I see is, just bad news, really. And at some point, I just couldn't take it, so I deleted all the news apps. And I thought, that's not the way to go. There are so many great things happening in the world, so many great people doing actual important stuff, and I never hear about it because of all the bad news. And I know you have to be, somewhat aware of what is going on in the world, obviously, especially if there are wars going on, or there are diseases, and you need to be aware. But it's okay if I see one article and know about it, and that's it. Why do I have to see 50 articles every single day? So in my master's degree, I thought, okay, why don't I build an AI that can filter out the good news for me, so I just see only positive news? And then I realized, okay, this is not as easy as I thought, because how does the AI know what is positive and what is negative? So I did a lot of work with various data sets from news organizations. And that was also one of the research projects I worked on. Then during my undergrad, I also worked on facial recognition applications and their racial bias and gender bias within them. I don't know if you've heard of the Algorithmic Justice League, maybe, with Joy Bulamwini, an amazing person. And she basically realized that most of the facial recognition applications have a racial and gender bias, because they work really well when it's white men. But I think it was about 33% of all Black women are misclassified. So basically, every third Black woman is misclassified, and that is just not something that you can use in certain areas. Like, go to any country in Africa and you'll have a problem because most of the women won't be recognized. So how can you use this kind of technology? So I was basically working on finding a solution for this, looking at different data sets, just trying to find a solution for this problem, but I'm realizing that it's not something I can solve on my own. So I just went for the things that interest me, but also what I know that this is something that also affects me if I use this kind of technology, like the good news, bad news thing. This is something that has affected me. If you think about mental health, this affects so many people if you are constantly bombarded with negative news. So I built something that would help me and other people like me. With the facial recognition, I know I'm probably not part of the data set. My mother is definitely not part of the data set. So I built something, or I tried to work on something where I could be part of the data set and it would work better for me. And now my PhD is the exact same thing. I'm working on something where I know I am currently not included in the data sets. No one cares about people like me. No one cares about us, really. So how can I make this better? So for me, this has always been my somewhat North Star to go with, something to focus on my research, because I knew that if it wasn't personal to me, I didn't find enough reasons to even bother working on this. And obviously, you need to have the resources to work on all of these things. And I've been fortunate enough to get those resources as well. But there are always people who would want to collaborate. There are always people that can help you with these kinds of resources. And it's just a matter of reaching out to them as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So, are there any published research papers in case our audience would like to read it? Or
that's a good question. So I wrote chapter in a book a few years ago. That, but honestly, at this point, I think that was my first publication, and I realized maybe I was a bit too young for that. But I can send you some stuff. I recently published a news article at the Ada Lovelace Institute. It's
Okay.
like a blog article, and I'm basically looking into whether we should focus on having one huge AI system like ChatGPT that basically takes in all the languages of the world, or should we maybe go into different communities and empower them to create their own AI systems because, yeah, of various reasons. And I think that in general, that really describes what I'm interested in, especially in my research as well. So wait, let me find the article. I think there it's just I would love to hear people's opinions on this as well, because I think this is definitely a problem that we have to solve together, and it's not working if there's just one person calling all the shots. So I think yeah, to me, it's just very important to include various perspectives, talk to as many people as I can, especially people that never really get a chance to talk otherwise. And yeah, making things better. So go have a look at this article that I wrote and let me know what you think.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think my last question will be for the people out there, if they want to pursue a career in AI and robotics, also in research, what should be the career path they should, go through?
Yeah.
Is there any recommendation from you?
Um, so I think that really depends on what you're interested in. So some people are very much interested in research. So they're the main path is to, collect your degrees in in some way, where you go from bachelor's to master's, maybe get some working experience as well. But I don't think there is one straight line that leads to your perfect career. I think the main topic is focus on something that you're interested in and just study a lot, know what is going on, know what is currently what people are talking about, but also know what doesn't work yet. I think that's very important in general. If you look at like literally my PhD, the only reason I'm doing this is because I basically try to break ChatGPT and look, okay, so everyone is using this, but there are a few things that probably won't work. So I try to look into this and and see, but I don't think that I would have been able to do all of these things if I hadn't had my previous experience of going into different fields. So the fact that I went from, basic computer science to AI and then robotics and then back to AI and then to languages and then back to humanities and looking at how society thinks about AI, and then now to a PhD where I'm basically incorporating all of these things. So I think it's very important to have a basically a wide variety of things that you're good at, that you know about as well, because I think in this current climate, everyone is somewhat connected to AI, and you have to find your one niche where you think you could be an expert in, I think. And that you can then combine with what you're already working on. Because coding at this point, I think everyone should be able to code. To me, it's just like learning another language, and everyone should know about AI. But you have to figure out, okay, what is it actually that makes you different from everyone else? So if you want to apply to a job, think about how many people apply with a basic university degree in, let's say, computer science. So why should they hire you? So then maybe look into different aspects that you could bring onto the table. So, for example, looking at humanities, have you looked at policy and regulation maybe within AI or computer science in general? Or, looking at maybe robotics and then combining that with software engineering, for example. So try and find different niches that you can put together, because the wider your perspectives are, the more you can bring to the table. And there are so many opportunities right now, but they're very competitive, and they're basically you're competing with the rest of the world because everyone wants to be an AI at the moment. So you just have to make sure that you work on something that you actually want. Please don't waste your time on something that you don't like, but also focus on something that is additional to your current career path, so that you know exactly that you are somewhat unique in your position that you have at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you. So, one last question. I know I said one last earlier, but one last. So, my question is, how did you get? I know now. I know that you have been able to secure different high opportunities. You have been able to get the chance to work with different top tier AI companies. So, how did you get these opportunities so that the audience can be able to if they want, they can be able to apply and be able to get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Also, with that, if there is any institution where people can apply and join the AI field, you
Yeah.
can also recommend it to us.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very important question, because there are so many great opportunities, but they don't get advertised that much, I think. So even my PhD project, I stumbled upon this by accident because I was doing research for another thing, and I just clicked on a link that looked interesting to me. And then I saw, oh my God, they're looking for a PhD person in that lab. So I think they are not doing enough work for us to see all of the things that we could be looking at. So we have to do the work, really. So we have to go out and dig deep and look at all the things that we could potentially do. And I think in this case, the best thing to do is to have a social media presence, for example, on LinkedIn, connect with a lot of people, even if it's online lectures or online events that you go to. Tag the people, connect with the people, and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this and this. Are there any opportunities? I think that in general already can open up a lot of doors. Then join different initiatives, the ones that I mentioned, for example, like the one that you're in right now, but in general, connect with people that are in similar fields as you or in similar positions, for example, women in AI, and figure out, okay, what is it that they are doing? How can you maybe join that? Are there any things that you can add to where okay, you are in need of expertise that I have, I can help you. And I think in general, figure out what you're interested in, go to those websites, and sometimes they have open opportunities. So, for example, I went to a conference in Texas about 1.5 years ago, and they had scholarships to travel to that conference, and I applied and I got in. So I think there are these opportunities out there, but you have to look for them. So look at conferences that you might be interested in and see if they have travel scholarships. Look at universities, whether they have internships or summer schools, for example. So summer schools are definitely something that I would recommend, because you get to be at a different place for about a week, talking to other people in your research area. You'll have lectures from different people, and they also usually have travel scholarships. So I would use all of these opportunities. And just honestly, you have to write a lot of emails, a lot of applications, and you might write about 100 emails and maybe one comes back, but that one was worth all the other 100 emails. And just because someone said no, like so many people have said no to me, and I just knew, okay, then maybe it wasn't meant to be, and I'm gonna continue with something else. And I kept on asking people, I kept on going and seeing, what is out there and where can I go. And sometimes it didn't work, but that didn't stop me from continuing. So yeah, just don't give up and look at all the different opportunities that are out there. Join different groups and connect with people.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, if there are any links you would like to share with us later, you can send me and I can share it to the community.
Perfect.
So, thank you very much, Hannah. If there is any question from the audience, let me give the chance for you, and then we will finish our session. Yes, please unmute yourself and. ask.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Angel.
I wanted to say that first of all, we're so very proud of you and all of the things that you are doing in the world. And so, as you look at AI, with everything that is happening in the world, and I'm sure you know what's happening in the U.S.,
Yeah.
what are some things that you would advise individuals to do right now? Not in 5 years, not in 10 years, because we have this thing in the U.S. called No Child Left Behind.
Mm.
And it was an initiative to make sure that children were learning and passing grades and all these different things, reading and writing and arithmetic was the premise of that. And so, how do we ensure that no community is left behind when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Angel. I think that's a very important question in general because there are so many communities that are currently being left behind because they are not part of the data sets, they're not part of the groups that people who build these technologies are interested in. So I think then it is actually essential for those communities to teach themselves basically, okay, what is it that we need to do and how can we empower our community to create our own systems. And of course, not everyone has the same amount of resources, not everyone has the same amount of people that can actually do that, but there are a lot of online resources that you can take advantage of. There are so many tutorials, online lectures, so you can teach yourself about AI and how these things work, and then come together as a community and think about, okay, what is it actually that you want and what you need. What is the first thing that you need in order to get to a higher level as a community, but also how can you claim what is yours? So, whether it's language data, whether it is the people that work on these things, a lot of them go abroad because there are more opportunities outside of their own countries, which, is great for big tech, but it's not really great for those communities because they're losing a lot of valuable talent and a lot of valuable people. And I think in these cases, it's very important not to forget your own community and think about, okay, so I've learned all these amazing skills and things from abroad. How can I use this in my own community? That's basically what I'm trying to do as well, because I realize, okay, I come from a privileged background. I went to school in Germany. I went to university in the UK, and now I have all these skills, but there's so much I can do with it and go back to where I came from, and go back to the people that could potentially need my advice, my skills, and so on. And that is what I want to continue doing. And I think that's something so many other people can do, because if we're not going to do this, then no one is really going to care about our communities. So yeah, the one thing that I can recommend is study, no, become the best you can be in these kinds of spaces, so that no one can push you away, but also know where your roots are so you can come back one day and help.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you so much. Is there another question from the audience?
I actually have a question if people are willing to share their thoughts. I hope that's okay, Miran.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
No,
Yes.
I personally am just interested in um, what do you think is actually needed in AI right now in your communities? Where do you see the biggest potential that is not being used at the moment? So, where do you think AI can be better used within your communities?
Okay. So, is there anyone who wants to answer this? Okay, Betty.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And I completely agree with everything that you said. That is literally why I'm trying to work in this space, because this gap between all these languages is insane. And, people are saying, oh, yeah, but we're working on this. But you're not actually working on this with the people that know about this. They're just sitting in some tiny lab somewhere in Europe and say, oh, yeah, we'll fix this for you. But I think, there are definitely other ways. So teaching people, that is exactly the way to go. Teaching the community as well. How can we solve our own problem? Really? How can we create more data? Yeah. So yeah, that's really valuable. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Betty and Hannah. Is there anyone who wants to answer? Okay. Okay. Sure, Angel, sure.
Um, I think what we and I'm not looking at a global approach.
Mm.
Um, Here they say all politics is local.
Mm.
And so when I'm looking at artificial intelligence, um, one of the biggest gaps that I see is in training. And although we have different avenues and resources to receive training, I'm seeing that biggest gap is those who are non-technical. They're listening to the verbiage and they're thinking, okay, I have to have, you know, I have to have attended Harvard or all of these different things. And so I am seeing a shift and a gap that is increasing where people utilize AI and sometimes they don't even know they're utilizing
Yeah.
AI. And so I connect with you when you say, we have to teach our communities
Yeah.
and we have to meet them where they are
Mm.
in terms of the language that we're using. We can all use, artificial intelligence, algorithms, and all of these different things. And for us, it may be, oh, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah.
But for another person, they're trying to figure out, okay, I have to pay rent. I
Yes.
have children. I have all of these other things. Angel, I don't want to go back to school
Mm.
and do all of that because I am not in a position where I can either leave my job or transition my health care or my child care or whatever. And so I think the biggest gap, which we're going to feel, is teaching people the basics,
Yeah.
giving them an on ramp or a pathway to AI before they get to the Microsoft and the AWS and all of that. We have to teach them the basics first.
Yeah. No, that's so important. Thank you, Angel. I completely agree with you, especially with all these, very technical words thrown around in the news, basically in your everyday life, and everyone in the tech world expecting everyone else to know what is going on and understanding these processes, but they're so complex. It's not that simple. And I think also to just stay safe in these kinds of in these times where you know exactly what happens to your data, what happens to everything else that you're doing, what happens to the text that you're basically putting into chatbots. How is that being used? How can you just protect yourself, your family, your community from being exploited in certain ways? So I think there's so much that we have to teach different people, and depending on where they come from, they might have different skill sets that would be important to incorporate into AI, but because there is no communication happening between, for example, people in humanities and people in AI, we don't even know the potential that could be there. And I've had this experience where I went to the Ada Lovelace Institute in London, and it's a research institute that is entirely focusing on the impact AI has on society. So to me, very important, basically important to everyone. I think everyone should know about this and learn about this. And then I walk in and I realize, wow, I'm the only person with a technical background in the entire institute. So basically, no one there had ever studied any AI, had ever studied even computer science or anything related to science. They all had different humanities backgrounds. I mean, they taught themselves how to think about AI and how to understand these processes, but the way the AI world is kind of explaining their problems is not readable from a humanities perspective. So really, I became the go-to dictionary for AI terms. And if people didn't understand a certain process, they would come to me and say, oh, Hannah, can you explain this to me? And I thought, that's exactly what we need. We need to have these kinds of conversations so that everyone can understand what's going on, because this is so important. It surrounds us every single day. So why are we not having these kinds of conversations? So yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Ida, please continue.
Hi everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you.
So my point is, like, I completely agree with Angel in what Hannah said.
Mm.
So I think the biggest gap is, like, you guys said, it's like lack of awareness, because for some people, like in America or UK, AI is insane, right? Like the future is here.
Yeah.
But for some people, especially in my community,
Yeah.
AI is like, it's like uh they're not gonna be there anywhere. Like, it doesn't feel like they can use that, they can utilize that. It's like they're far from that,
Yeah.
So uh like in my community, some people can't even use a remote control.
Yeah. Yeah.
A remote control. My grandma literally lost her job because she couldn't receive payment using online banking.
Oh,
Like
I'm so sorry.
they use online banking to receive and pay payments, but she couldn't do that because she couldn't receive payments through online banking using her own mobile.
Mm.
So there is a big gap between some people out there who are utilizing AI every day, who are living in a smart house, and in my community. So I think the biggest gap is, like I said, it's a lack of awareness. So I feel like we should utilize AI to make life easier,
Yeah.
like so much easier, so much better than this. Like, for example, I'm not really good at AI. I don't know. I don't have like that much awareness about AI. I'm a junior web developer. I always say, like, make the website as easier than you can do it, like as user friendly as you can do it.
Yeah.
So if I don't know what specific feature we can use to make AI more user friendly or more easier, but as as we can get it better,
Yeah.
if we can, like, we can make it to make life easier.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something we have to work on. Just the general awareness of everyone and knowing that there is this gap, even because the US and the UK, or Europe in general, they can be so ignorant to certain problems that other communities might have. And that just because they don't even care and they don't take the time to sit down and actually ask people, that's why I'm asking these questions, because I want to hear. I'm in a bubble right now, and I could tell you about my assumptions, but I actually want to talk to people that have different experiences so I can learn and see, okay, what is it that we actually need to do? Because, I would like to know, what is it that I can help with, for example? How can I use my resources to make these kinds of problems, to solve them, basically? And I think that is a very important discussion to have. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
All right. I think we have passed our time. So Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. You have incredible journey. You have inspired us. Keep being making us proud.
Thank you.
And yeah, so if you want to share any resource or any institutions that can help our community to apply and be able to get the exposure of
Yes.
AI, please share it with me and I'll share it to the community. Thank you
Yes.
so much again. Thank you so much everyone for joining us. Yeah. Good night.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.